Thanks for tuning in to Bourbon Drop. I'm your host, Myron. Today, we've got a bottle on the channel that comes from the co-founder of Rabbit Hole. So it's a little bit pricey, but we're going to get into that. Let's get it.
Bottle drop, bottle drop, bottle drop.
As I mentioned in the intro, Zamanian, who was one of the co-founders of Rabbit Hole, actually has his hand in this thing. Now, he went in with another company, the same company who bought out Rabbit Hole, Pernod Ricard. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But they went in on a joint venture and decided to pay homage to the mother of bourbon. Now, her backstory is crazy. I went on their website. I mean, she even had the Beam, some of the guys from the Beam family, help her dismantle her stills and move them down to Mexico during the time of Prohibition. She lived a wild life. It was a wild ride. Unfortunately, once 64 happened and the government passed the law, something like that, all bourbon had to be made in the United States. But come to find out, at one point, she even sold whiskey to Pappy Van Winkle, and that bourbon that was coming up from Mexico apparently cut into his profits. I mean, she lived a wild life. If you want to go to the website, it is marydowling.com, and they go into the whole backstory. This thing is already winning all types of gold awards. I mean, it's kind of crazy how they just started last year in 2023, and they've already won San Francisco World Spirits Awards. They've won all types of awards from spirits competitions, so it's kind of crazy. But I got to give a shout out to Brad. When I met up with Brad at S&W to get my fiddler from him that he had brought back from Georgia, Brad had picked this thing up, and he was like, "Hey man, do you want to do a review?" I was like, "Are you really even asking me that?" I was like, "I am never going to turn down free whiskey." And it was something that I had never heard of before. Pretty cool looking bottle, but a very basic label. I mean, it doesn't say much. Mary Dowling, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. One thing it is wheated. This is a wheated bourbon. Comes in at 107 proof. And if you notice the color on the label, we all know that there's another manufacturer out there who has a color similar to this, burgundy and gold, Weller 107. I even read a review where it was kind of compared to Weller 107. I had different thoughts, but we'll get into that as well. Like I said, it comes in at 107 proof. It is 65, 25, 10. So it's 65% corn, 25% wheat, 10% malted barley. Like I said, it's a very basic label. It's like they spent more on the bottle design than they did on the label itself. It's got a cool topper on it. I did kind of like put that in the intro where you see the bottle drop videos. That's a drawing of her. When you go on the website and you see what she really looks like, this is like a cartoon. Then you'll really see what she looks like. But she was a bad woman. I mean, the things that she accomplished during her day and age, they were just incredible. Let's get into the nose of this thing. Oak, spice, you get like a little bit of like cinnamon and clove on the nose too. I would say just a touch of a citrus note, leaning more towards an orange, grapefruit, kind of in that area. A little bit of sweetness on the nose, maybe a milk chocolate. Yeah, that's citrus. That citrus kind of ramped back up when I went back into it. Let's get into the palate. Oh, that's spicy. It's not super spicy. It's a little spicy in the nose. Spicy in the back of the throat. Cinnamon clove definitely transfer over. It's almost got this honey note to me, like a honey and caramel, not a deep dark brown sugar. This is not. I mean, it's got, you know, it's got a decent color to it, but it's not giving me like these dark notes, like rich brown sugar. Comes across the palate kind of medium, not thin. I wouldn't say it's weak on the palate. I wouldn't call it delicate. I would say it's kind of medium on the palate. All right, let's go back into the nose. Oaky, doughy. I didn't get that sweet dough note the first time I cracked this thing open. When I cracked it open, it was, yeah, I just didn't get that sweet dough note, put it that way. This is like a almost like a cinnamon bun. You know how kind of like the center is kind of raw a little bit? Get a little bit of sweet tea now. All right, let's go back into the palate one more time. Yeah, the palate is medium. Honey, spicy. Not as much clove on the second sip. A little bit of char in the back. Mainly leather. Decent like black pepper finish. But mainly leather, but it's got a touch of black pepper. And now it's kind of gone. Like, I still get the leather. I still get a lot of the black pepper, but I'm not getting a lot of sweetness on the finish, which is not a bad thing. I don't mind when things finish with a lot of char, not too charry, but with a lot of char and leather and like a rich dark chocolate. Now that is one thing that I will say about this bourbon. It is not your typical wheated bourbon in my opinion. If you gave this thing to me kind of blind, well, not kind of blind, but if you gave this thing to me blind, I would say that it was just a regular bourbon, maybe even a high rye bourbon, because I felt like the first night I cracked it open, I felt like it drank more like 1792, just their regular offering off the shelf. It had that cinnamon note, had that clove note, which I don't typically pick up from wheaters. Wheaters, to me, when it comes to Maker's Mark and Larceny Barrel Proof, they are more along the lines of like this earthy, rich, dark chocolate. I don't pick that up in here. This, to me, would be that sweet tea note, that cinnamon and clove note. Those are typical notes that I pick up in like Wild Turkey 101, or I pick up in some MGP products, and like I said, the 1792, just the regular small batch. So this thing really, to me, really doesn't drink like a wheater. The 107, I wouldn't say it comes across hot at all. I really don't even pick up the 107. It has a little bit of spiciness behind it, but it's not like knocking me over. All right, so let's get into the breakdown, because this is something that I've never seen before. They just started in 2023. I don't know how many shelves that it's on. I really didn't know that S&W had it, but Brad said he bought it off the strength of someone recommending it. So, is it worth the chase? At this point, I'm going to have to say no, it is not worth the chase. And the reason why I say it's not worth the chase is because it has like a medium mouthfeel. It's a good product, but it's nothing that's like, you know, just like knocking my socks off. Is it worth retail? This right here is a $130 bourbon. Now, we all know Rabbit Hole was priced high, so I guess I shouldn't expect anything different, but this is a $130 bourbon. I mean, look, no age statement. We know it has to be at least 4 years old for it not to carry an age statement in America. That's just the, you know, government rules. But at $130, is it worth retail? I'm gonna have to say no. It is just, it doesn't knock my socks off. It doesn't blow me away. I didn't even know how much Brad paid for this product. The night that I came home, seeing the label, seeing the bottle, and I didn't ask Brad, I was thinking this was more of a $45 to $65 product. Honestly, after tasting it, I was like, okay, 107. It's over that 100 proof mark, so I know it's going to be a little pricey. Looking at the label, I was like, well, the label doesn't look too jazzed up, so it's probably not super expensive. It wasn't until I Googled it to figure out who Mary Dowling was, and that's when I found out that it was 130 bucks. I was like, that is just a bit much for me for what is in this bottle. Who is it for? That 107 proof did not kick like a mule. I would actually, at 107 proof, see what a new bourbon drinker thought about this. Maybe someone who was kind of like new to creeping up to that 100 proof point mark. I think I would try to give this to them and see where it goes. Will it always be on a bar? Well, once again, this is on loan. Shout out to Brad. Shout out to him and Kevin. They are down at Pursuit United right now doing a pick, doing some hunting in Kentucky too. But even if I was to buy this bottle on my own, once it's gone, it's gone. I wouldn't necessarily have to have this bottle on a bar. It's good, but it's not $130 good. So it's not something that every time I ran out, I would have to just run out and get another bottle. That is asking a lot, especially for, just being 107 proof, just being kind of scarce and just, I don't know. It's just that it just doesn't sit right with me that it's 130 bucks. But anyway, like I said, once I run out, I'm out. So it will not always be on a bar. And with that being said, let the whiskey flow. Never run out unless you're headed to a drop. Till next time.